Now let's turn to a House Democrat who voted for the Build Back Better agenda. Let's bring in California Congressman Brad Sherman, live and in person. This is big.
Good to be with you, Mike.
He's also on the House Financial Services and Foreign Affairs Committees. Congressman, welcome.
Good to be with you.
Your colleague, the Republican leader in the House, Kevin McCarthy, was on earlier today. Let's play the clip and I'll get you to respond.
We now know that the president and the Democrats have been lying to us all along, saying the bill was paid for. This is what happens when you have one-party rule.
How do you respond, Congressman?
Well, Kevin was on the floor challenging a Democrat to debate him in California, in his district. I responded and agreed to it. He hasn't responded to me. And I think he's afraid because I happen to be a CPA. I happen to have headed the second largest tax agency in the country. This bill will not just pay for itself, it will help pay down the deficit. The reason is that the revenues are being dramatically undercounted by people who don't know anything or haven't been directly involved in tax administration. You look at the former Treasury secretaries and IRS commissioners, and myself as heading the second largest tax agency in the country. The $8 billion a year extra for the IRS is going to produce well more than $40 billion in revenue, not just from what the auditors collect, but how they inspire others to forswear aggressive positions and make sure they're taxed. So we're certainly going to get at least a 5-to-1 ratio there, and this bill will do far more to pay down the deficit than people realize.
So now the bill goes to the United States Senate, where it's in effect a 50-50 Senate. Every vote counts on the Democratic side. Here is West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin.
When the final bill comes out, CBO score comes out, then we'll go from there. I'm still looking at everything, absolutely.
Do you worry about getting those moderate senators to yes?
Absolutely, but no Democratic administration has done more with thinner majorities than President Biden. He's trying to rival Roosevelt and the Great Society with no majority in the Senate at all. Whereas Roosevelt, it was hard to find a Republican in the House or the Senate back in 1933.
Do you worry about the moderates in the Senate making significant changes and then having problems with progressive members in the House when the bill comes back?
I think, unfortunately, they will make some changes, but I think we will pass the bill recognizing that we'll get what we can now. And I think next year we may see a larger Democratic majority as people understand that what Donald Trump is doing today, and the man has blood on his hands, is trying to suppress our economy by convincing Americans not to get vaccinated. It's part of a ghoulish political strategy to depress the economy and depress Democratic vote, and I don't think it'll work.
To inflation, you heard me speak with your colleague Kevin Brady. Is there something that you think policymakers can do to get a handle on inflation?
Well, one of the things was the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Only a small number of House members, Republican House members, voted for it. But we wouldn't have this tie-up in the ports if we had passed a bill like that 5 years ago. Right now, we have the largest volume ever of containers coming through the Los Angeles ports. We needed to prepare for that 5 years ago. Inflation is hitting the entire world, Britain and Germany and Japan even. And of course, people are blaming Biden. Germans aren't, but people ignorant of what's happening in the entire world think it's just an American problem. We're trying to deal with the COVID situation. There were a lot of unpaid for bills that were passed, huge amounts of money spent, all signed by, or almost all signed by Donald Trump. And we had to do that because of COVID. So the unpaid for bills were COVID emergency bills, mostly signed by Donald Trump. We do have a little inflation due to that, and mostly due to the bottlenecks. I think we'll come out of it. It may take another year.
Let me push back briefly, because I have you here face to face. Some would say pouring trillions more into the economy right now could exacerbate inflation.
The Build Back Better bill will pull more money out of the economy in tax revenues than will be spent. It is not inflationary to ask to provide $250 a month per child for every parent if you're also collecting more money, even more money from corporations. So if you collect more from corporations, give money back to parents, that's justice, that's helpful to parents, and it's not inflationary. You're just pulling money from one source and giving a tax credit to another source.
All right. Congressman Brad Sherman of the great state of California, great to see you in person.
Good to see you.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and your loved ones.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.